Okay, you guys ready?
Yep.
Okay, well, I will call this, thank you, Paul. I'll call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order for Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. Happy December, everybody. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Tom, what are you on the bridge of the Enterprise? What's your background?
No, this is one of the rebel bases from Star Wars.
I knew that, Tom.
All right.
You know.
Well, at least you're on the right side.
And Chief Baker's going to be a little late. He had to go on a ambulance call. So.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make a motion that we add an item to the agenda. That we add consideration of appointments to fill vacancies on the Board of Assessment Appeals and on the Ethics Commission. So I'd like to make that item number, we'll call it 5A.
Okay, second.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right, first order of business then is approval of the minutes of November 17th, 2020. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion by Paul, seconded by Rich. Any errors? Any changes?
No.
All right, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Public comments. I don't see any public with us tonight. I don't know, Scott, you want to say anything? No. All right. Well, we'll get
Good.
All right. Any correspondence, Dion?
No.
All right. First Selectmen's report. Well, as you probably have been watching, the entire United States is going into the second wave of the COVID spike. Some parts of the country are hit extremely hard, and they're worse off than they were last spring when this first started. They're running into critical shortages of hospital beds, hospital workers, materials, supplies. It has even forced some of the most recalcitrant state governors to finally start to issue things like mandatory mask orders. Here in New England, we are still among the best, but we are not going in the right direction. Our rate per 100,000 is now up to 50. I think it's a little over 50. And everybody's working very hard to try to get that down. And I do want to really thank Laura Vasile and her entire staff. And she doesn't have a very big staff. We have put as many part-timers in there as we can find who are qualified to do that kind of work. But I can tell you, I had a conversation with her and Phyllis the other day. Phyllis, of course, the HR director. She has worked 7 days a week since March 1st because of the COVID thing, contact tracing, being in the schools every day, working with Dr. Carver and all the school principals. And then on top of that, just a massive amount of work just with just the normal stuff that goes through the health department. Building department requests for building permits and new septic fields are still way off the chart up. Not everybody is suffering financially, and there's just a tremendous amount of activity that has fallen on her shoulders. So we're going to try to get her as much help as we can to try to take the load off. That she deserves to get a day off sometime. I called her last week at about 8 o'clock in the morning and woke her up because she had been up all night doing contact tracing and going over the figures with state officials. They're all just jamming as hard as they possibly can to try to keep up with this. The good news is we have not had any serious lack of compliance in our business community. We have not had, that we are aware of at this point, we have not had any student-to-student transmissions in the schools. We have had some people in the school community catch the disease, but it wasn't at school. The number one culprit is still still seems to be small gatherings and families where people are, just too close to one another, and they're not understanding how easily it's spread, even if they're trying to be careful. Obviously, I'm sure you read the news last week. The governor instituted a new level of fine, $10,000 for businesses that fail to comply with the rules. I had a conversation with the Chamber of Commerce this morning, and I reiterated to them that this is not targeted at, a place like Jay Lawrence or Nikki's Haircutters, where somebody wanders in and forgets their mask and leaves it in the car and has to go get it. This is for those few places around the state, and there have been some where they just blatantly say, forget it, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And I know state officials about 3 weeks ago shut down a bar at 1 o'clock in the morning that had over 400 people in it. And they just basically said, to hell with you, Governor Lamont, I'm just going to keep my business open. That's what that's targeted at. So I don't expect anything like that to happen around here. And in fact, we have not had to even threaten anybody with a fine at this point. There are fines up to $100 per person. We have had a couple of complaints. I think like maybe in September, there was a complaint of a business that was, I think the complaint was that not all the employees were wearing masks. And Laura's team went out and had a friendly conversation, problem solved. So we have not had to go down that road and be heavy hitters with them, but it's out there in case we need to. But I doubt that will ever happen. In other news, yesterday was the deadline for capital budget requests to be into the comptroller's office. And we are going to start going through those. Rich and Paul, I'll send you that stuff so you can start reviewing it as soon as Bob Kozlowski has it all compiled. And then, of course, by mid-December, we're going to be going through department budget requests as well. Try to get an early start on this year so we can really massage this, because I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on us this year. So that's it for my report for today. Any questions or comments, Rich and Paul?
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Matt. What's happening? Maybe Marty will answer this. What's happened to the litigation on the police station?
Well, there's no litigation yet. I mean, it's been discussed. I think what's happening is we received a report from the engineering firm Becht, and he gave some idea of what he thought the problems were, but he discovered other problems too. So we're trying to get a handle on what the cost would be to do some more serious testing. Right now, I don't want to go into too much in case we end up going into litigation. But right now, our special counsel has sent a letter to Downs about some of the matters. And I've been communicating with Nancy as well as Matt, the chairman of the Public Site and Building Committee. And we're trying to work something out if we can. We may not be able to. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and just so you know, I know that the building committee and the police commission are both getting very antsy about the timeline. We're trying to go through this as fast as possible, but also as meticulously as possible, because we want the solution to be right. So we will keep you informed on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Any other comments, questions? Rich?
No.
Okay. All right. So now we're at 5A, consideration of appointments. Paul, did you get the letter from the BRTC?
Yeah, I did. Right. I think we want to appoint Will Duff has a vacant seat on the Board of Assessment Appeals, was formerly occupied by Gerard Amend. Gerard is really moving to Florida, just pulling stakes out of Bethel. So, Will certainly got enough experience for this. So I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Will Duff.
I'll second that. Question, has Gerard resigned officially yet?
Yep.
Do you know? Oh, he has? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to appoint William Duff to the vacancy left by Gerard Amend. Any discussion? And hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. And the next one?
Next one, we have Gary Reagan. We all know Gary to fill a vacant seat on the Ethics Commission, which we had a person by the name of Laura Patricio. She never appeared at the town clerk's office to be sworn in and has been non-responsive to our efforts. So we want to just put Gary on there. And we all know Gary. Gary's been on several boards and commissions. So good reputation within town. Good person.
Okay,
I'll make that motion. We appoint him.
all right, seconded by Rich. Okay, any discussion? And hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the consideration of the fire commission. Do you guys have what I was working with here earlier today is the comments that Tom Gallagher had sent us before the last meeting on November 17th. So I think there was general agreement on most of this, but I want to go through the points one by one to make sure that we're all on the same page and we've got this. Going on page one, and do you guys have a copy of this?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom was advising that the fire commission should be incorporated within the current EMS commission to reduce redundancy and of two commissions of similar advisory intent.
Well, I think we want to title the thing right from the start, Fire EMS Commission.
Well, I went back and I looked at the ordinance that creates the EMS commission, and that's got a very specific mission and membership. So, Tom, remind me who's on that. It's you and Laura and me and the two fire chiefs, right? Just the five people.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that I don't know. I like your input on that. That made me think that because that is such a specific thing that that has nothing to do with fire per se, and because of the fact that our ambulance corps are both of our ambulance corps are separate and independent to some degree from the fire departments. I'm thinking that we should start with a fire commission to fulfill the role that we originally outlined. And maybe in the future, if we ever get to the point where the two fire companies decide to merge their ambulance operations into one ambulance corps, then we can look at that again, or whoever's in office by then can look at that again. But so I was thinking that it seems to me that we're going to have a bunch of people no matter what we do, whether it's one commission or two, because you still have to have people who know the fire business working that side of it. And then you've got Tom and Laura with EMS doing that side of it. So Rich and Paul, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, Matt, because the fire department or the EMS people, they buy their own ambulances and everything. We do help supplement the paramedics and stuff, but it's not as much as the fire department, buying the trucks and the firehouse that, we provide for. So it's a lesser amount. And I do agree that in the future, we could add them in or make a separate commission for the EMS.
Okay. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And my only concern is that we have both fire guys that really cross over into EMS too. So I was just trying to simplify, but then again, if you want to combine it later, fine.
Okay.
This is a big step, so I think we should go easy to begin with to get it set up, and then we can build on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That's issue number one.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
if you don't mind. So, right. So we talked a little bit about this. It's all very much more complicated than it seems to be. Right. So you say it's very separate, the fire and EMS, but to a degree, it's really not, because, the fire chief, in the end is responsible for the EMS organization in their fire department. We've been told by OEMS that we're the ones that should sign the paperwork for our licensing and things of that nature. So, They are separate. All the funding for fire and rescue and the building and the fire apparatus is paid for by town funds. But the two agencies, fire and EMS, interact so much together that it's really one agency. I mean, there's nothing that says that the fire chief or the EMS captain, cannot give a report to this commission and discuss EMS matters. And I just don't know legally. Marty would know whether you can change that ordinance and make changes to it that changes the makeup of it, of who's on it, whether that's difficult to do or it needs to be separate.
That's what I was going to say, that the problem that you have is that if you're going to incorporate the EMS into this, you're going to have to deal with the ordinance that creates the EMS, and it's going to have to be modified, and absorbed into this other one. So that's the problem that I see.
And Matt, if you don't mind, it's Kenny.
Yeah, hey, Kenny.
From an operational perspective, the fire department and the EMS associations within the fire department operate 100% the same, right? I understand the challenge with the ordinance, but from an operational perspective, it's all in the same organization. There's really no difference between two. I agree on the funding piece of the picture, but from an operational perspective, it's 100% the same.
Well, it still brings up the question. One of the primary roles of this fire commission is to oversee the budgeting, the financial operations, the long-term planning of the fire side of the business. So no matter how you cut it, you have to duplicate some functions within the commission. In other words, I can't see Laura Vasile getting pulled into discussions about fire department budget. She's got her, as the health director, she's got her own issues that she has to deal with. So you're either making that commission bigger and changing all the ordinances that go along with it, or we focus on this, not dissimilar to the police commission when you get right down to it. That's going to, I mean, you could make it as a matter of fact, Tom, isn't the chief of police on the EMS commission too? Or no? Am I thinking of something?
No, they are not.
Okay, all right. Well, I won't put him on it. He's got enough to do too. So I hear all your comments about that, but if you look through the document on what the goals of this long-term capital budget planning with a future horizon of 10 years, including building maintenance, planning, future apparatus acquisitions, other capital equipment needs such as communications, turnout gear, SCBA gear, hoses, and all other equipment that meets the criteria for capital purchases, and presentations of those budgets to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, ensuring vehicle maintenance and repair records, ensuring assets of the town of Bethel are cataloged and reported accurately to the Finance Department, review of operational and capital requests and recommendations for same. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm still having a hard time understanding how we basically change the ordinance that governs the EMS commission and make that part of it.
The only comment I'll make, Matt, is that on the finance side,
Yeah,
when you talk about the finance reporting to the whatever finance reporting you want on the fire side and the EMS side, it's
Yeah.
100% the same.
well,
Right.
except the taxpayers don't pay for the EMS side.
No, but I'm saying when you ask for a report from the fire companies, it's 100% the same because they're fully integrated.
So it's, Kenny.
That's my only point is,
You're saying it's all inclusive.
correct.
All right.
That's my point. I mean, so you're going to get the same report. If you ask for a report from the fire companies, you're going to get the same report in both committees.
Can you give me an example?
No, that's not necessarily true though, Kenny, right? Because we can give the fire department give an EMS report for billing and EMS, what they put away for capital for a new ambulance and what they spend for staffing and for billing, which is separate from a report for what the fire department spends. That's the town budget money. And
Right.
What
Yeah, no, Tommy, I don't disagree with that, right? But I'm just saying when it talks about remaining funds for contributions to other things and all that stuff, that's where it becomes intermixed completely. Right? That's all I'm saying is when you talk about the fund drive and everything else, it's really a mixed bag.
Well, do you have a suggestion for how to more clearly delineate those things? So we're just talking about fire?
Then you fully 100% only talk about town budget and nothing else.
Well, we're not really talking about the EMS budget. Really, the only thing we need is the paramedic billings because that's a shared cost.
Right, and that's on the EMS side.
Yes, correct.
Right.
That's
So
correct.
if you don't want to know about the company, the nonprofit associations finances, then you can delineate between the two.
Oh, you're breaking up, Kenny.
I said if you don't want to know about the line between the fire department budget and the company budget, the nonprofit budget, then it's easy to do. Right. But if you want to understand on either side of either commission, the nonprofit side of the equation, then it's mixed together. Right. So if you want to, so when you get reporting on the fire commission side, it can only be to town funds.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's okay with you guys, that's fine.
Okay.
Right, and,
Well,
and
Kenny,
the current
I don't-
EMS,
so-
a big budget anyway, that the town funds that they collect, through their mailing. I mean,
Say
we're
that-
not talking tens of $20,000, are we?
Well, I don't know what Bethel collects. I have no clue. Right. I gave you a roundabout number for Stony Hill, but I don't have any knowledge of what Bethel collects via the fund drive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you're talking about the nonprofit funds. This has nothing to do with that. I don't think it's in the town's purview to go into what you want to do as a club. That's up to you. The only thing we're concerned about is the funds that the town of Bethel provides for the ambulances. And don't tell me that they don't provide funds, because they do.
Oh, no, Marty, I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that the funding for the EMS service is funded, 95, 90-ish%, 80-ish% from the nonprofit. It's not a club. It's the nonprofit that collects the billing, does the fund drive for in Stony Hill's behalf for the ambulance service. Those funds are part of the EMS service, right? They provide, you can argue about the percentage, but 80 to 90% of the funding for the EMS service, right? Minus the paramedic, right? That's all I'm saying.
I don't think there's any intention to have the health director and Mr. Knickerbocker sit on a board that's going to be dealing with things that we thought were the fire commission. That's why it's being separated at this time. And to be honest with you, I don't see any reason why they have to be separated or combined, I should say. I understand that there may be language regarding EMS, but if the numbers are covered anyway, it doesn't make a difference, because you still have to have that board pursuant to the ordinance, and they still have to act as a different group than just the fire departments on a whole, or just the board of selectmen.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as long as you guys are.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your comments. I think we are, Rich and Paul, do you agree that we are moving toward a separate commission still?
I think so.
It appears that way. But the thing that I'm concerned about is there's always this issue about finances, about being transparent.
Yeah.
And like Kenny says, it's all self-contained within the same report. Do we want to really change that and make it more difficult for the fire departments, or do we have a complete transparency on this?
Well, I'm thinking of my my experience as a member of the board of directors and member and trustee, member of the board of directors of CCM, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, and also as a trustee with KERMA, the Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency. That, of course, is the nonprofit insurance company that insures, like 300
Right.
municipal and school district entities around the state. So here you have kind of the same thing. You have two separate reports, and one of them is really complicated. It's governed by the State Insurance Commission laws, so they have to do two reports, one on a statutory basis and one on a GAAP basis, GAAP. And so Kerma is part of CCM. So yeah, the reporting gets a little tricky, but it's not really that hard to actually look at one report and delineate which side is the taxpayer funded side and which side isn't. So I think I still think that we can accomplish this with just keeping the fire commission for now. And again, if this works as well as I hope it does, that's something we can revisit in the future.
Yeah.
Rich?
Yeah. No, that's why I was thinking too, to keep it separate for right now, because this is a big step, to get both fire departments to work with us on this, and then we can, if we can see if we need to do more with the EMS, but it's two separate things. The EMS is other than us paying for the paramedics and some, maintenance costs for the vehicles and stuff. It pretty self-operates by itself there. So, and plus the commission, we were talking about, a 5-member commission, and then doing the 2 chiefs, then we're up to 7. Now, if you add the EMS people in, you're adding, you'll have a 10-person board. I don't think you'll get anything accomplished at some of the meetings.
Marty, you want to put a word to this?
No, I think I said enough. I think they should stay separate. And I think what Rich is saying is good advice. Let's get the fire commission going. Let's see how it works. And then if we can incorporate the EMS, incorporate the EMS.
All right. Okay.
All right, good. Okay, item number 2, Tom gave some excellent advice that we include formal recognition of the 2 fire departments as town agencies, which is, I have to do a mea culpa on that. Tom has been after me for that for about 5 years, and he's absolutely right. We should have a statement in the ordinance that recognizes formally our 2 fire departments, that, we're all joined at the hip. It's in their best interest too, that we recognize the taxpayers' contribution. So I didn't think that you guys would have any problem with adding that language.
None whatsoever.
No.
All right. Then under purpose on page 2, there was a couple of things that Tom added, which are in red. So we want to have the commission review the department's budgets and make some, basically help manage those budget requests and submissions, do the long-term planning. The budgets are currently separated into 2 presentations. I don't see why they can't continue to be that way under a commission. They can still be 2 budgets because they're still two agencies.
I fully agree with that because, you have 2 separate facilities there and 2 different departments, and I don't think you could combine it into one unless it's one department.
Right. Each one's going to have its own needs.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, too, I know we discussed this, and it's going down for, in what you sent out was the fact that the fire chief of each department shall attend a commission. I think this should be only in an advisory capacity, not as a member.
Oh, you mean like an ex officio?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. We talked about have 5 members, but the 2 chiefs would be ex officio, non-voting members.
So they would participate in all the discussions and planning, but non-voting.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Wouldn't that be similar to the police commission?
Yes.
Yes.
The chief is there at all the meetings, and they have other officers come and give reports, and
Yes.
same thing.
Yes.
All right. All right. There's some other language that Tom suggested, which I think makes a lot of sense. I think when we get down to some of the nitty gritty, like monthly financial reports versus quarterly or twice a year, I think we have to be sensitive to the volunteers' time on that, as well as possibly provide some more support for that. So I don't want to specify that in law. That's something that we can work out as we go along.
Well, Matt, why don't you say at least quarterly?
Okay,
I agree.
Yeah.
okay. And then,
The only point I'll make, Matt, is on that topic,
yeah, sure.
is that that's 100% town side.
That's right.
I mean, there's nothing the fire department can contribute. It can be all given to you from the finance department.
Well, I was just going to say, it's possible that we could just have the finance department do it,
Right.
to do it like the way they do a report to the Public Utilities Commission, kind of like the same thing, and to the Police Commission. So
Yeah, Brad gives every department head every month a munis report that shows you your expenses, from each account and
yeah,
what your balances are. But I mean,
Yeah,
obviously the chiefs can expound upon it a little bit.
Yeah, because I get that from Brad, and then I can balance out what I've spent and make sure I'm with, where I'm supposed to be when I get that report.
Right, but this would be going to the commission, so the commission can oversee it.
yeah. Yeah, well, we'll continue to send them to the departments too, but it would go to the commission. But yeah, that can be done by finance, because I don't want to overburden the volunteers with that. In fact, so we can change this bullet point to the reports would be provided by the finance department to the commission and to the chiefs. All right. One of the other bullet points on the last page, which I think was an error on my part. It says submit status reports of vehicle maintenance and repairs to finance. I think that should go to the fire commission.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then last couple of items, submit financial reports as required to do the annual audit. That's a once a year thing. Just all you have to do is send the records in, and finance does the rest. Okay.
But
Have you
let
talked to
me
Bob
ask a
about all this
question
work you're gonna-
on that one. It says
Yeah.
submit all financial reports as requested by the finance department related to the town's comprehensive annual finance report, including all records for fire, emergency service, paramedic, and ambulance operations. I think that's necessary.
Mhm.
I just don't want just fire,
Oh, yeah.
because this gives, all of us a better big picture, if you want to call it that, when you start doing, not only annual planning, but, long-term planning also.
Mhm.
So just, and again, this is a little more complicated than we all think it is. So now you're saying we're keeping it as a separate commission because we're only dealing with the town funds and the fire department, but the commission is going to ask for reports related to EMS and the paramedic and ambulance operations.
Well,
That's sort of, isn't that annually?
Exactly. That's why, Tommy, I was suggesting it's so intermingled
Right.
that if you ask for it, then you've kind of commingled everything together.
well, it doesn't need to be commingled, and I'm open to adjusting this language. I'm gonna be very frank with you guys. We have had over the years, and I'm accepting some people on this. I'm giving some people a pass. We have had a hell of a time getting information about the ambulance call volume so that we can show the taxpayers where that money goes for the paramedic. It's been like pulling teeth. In some years, we just flat out didn't get it. And Kenny, I'm not talking about you.
Right,
I'm talking about some other boards of directors that have been very difficult to work with.
Yeah, but
So,
that should be a requirement to the EMS committee
And
then.
it
and-
is. It
Right,
is.
and
It's
it-
in
and it
the
is.
EMS commission ordinance that the EMS commission can request any financial records, call reports, anything to do with EMS. And it's
Okay.
also in two other completely documents that are completely separate from the EMS commission, which is the townwide EMS plan, the local EMS plan that both fire departments signed and is required by state law that says that the town can require any documentation of any EMS report, financial information, anything. So there's two avenues where the town can already get that information.
Yeah, that's a great comment, Tommy, that, we should be able to get that
Yeah.
information through
Oh,
the
you can.
EMS.
Yeah, definitely. So that's all. And again, I'm for this. I'm for this to work right. But I'm just saying, you're saying in one breath, this is a fire commission dealing only with the town funds and the fire
Okay.
department that the town supports, but now you're going to be asking for EMS records. So
All right.
it should either be one way or the other or all together. So
Yeah,
All
but
right,
why
so-
can't we ask it through the EMS commission?
you
That's-
can,
that's-
absolutely.
that's
Right.
just what I was,
Yeah. So leave
Well,
it.
well, can I ask
So
a
then my
question
suggestion
here?
is leave it in the EMS commission, that part about
All right,
EMS.
let me just say this.
Yeah.
I believe that with the problems that the Board of Selectmen has had trying to get this information, that just because the EMS says, turn the information over, they're going to turn it over. That's been the problem the whole time. They don't want to turn it over. They've been asked over and over and over again by the people that look at their budgets and put their budgets through on a lot of different things. I realize it may not be the same things, but I just can't believe that because now the EMS is going to ask for it, they're going to do it. Tell me why it hasn't been done now.
Marty, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, and that's exactly my point.
Well, we're gonna have to give the commission some teeth to get those records.
You do, you don't give them the monies.
Yeah.
well, do we, Rich and Paul, do we leave this item in there or do we deflect that over to the EMS commission?
I think it should be deflected over to the EMS commission. We already have a commission set up for that.
Okay,
They should be getting that information when it's requested.
But
Okay.
on the other hand, let me play devil's advocate right here. We
okay,
haven't been able to get it. And, we go to budgetary, on an annual basis, looking at paramedics and, the equipment and all of that we have to provide. I feel that, the Board of Selectmen is left out in the cold on this thing and we just have to guess our way through it.
Well, somehow, Paul, we got to get the EMS commission to demand those records so we can look at them. And if we don't get those records, maybe they don't get funded somehow or
No, but you can't,
delayed.
you can't cut off paramedic or.
Oh, no, you can't cut that off, but some of the other things possibly.
Well, this has always been, a sort of a thorn in the side. I know that for many years, sitting on the Board of Selectmen here, but Marty, let me ask you, can we go to the EMS commission and insert our demand by way of ordinance?
I don't see why not. I mean, Tom is saying that it's already in there. I just don't have any faith it's going to be followed through with.
Well, should we change
They're going to
the,
pay attention to the Board of Selectmen. What makes you think they're going to pay attention to the EMS?
the only thing that comes to my mind is put it in ordinance form.
I mean, we could ask the Board of Selectmen today, could ask the EMS to provide the documentation.
I'll
Right?
tell you what,
Matt, what's your reaction?
I'm inclined to go with Rich's suggestion on this. But I think what I should do first is maybe Tom and I should review that ordinance that creates the EMS commission and take a look at it and find out how much teeth it has to collect that data. Because I can tell you a few years ago, it wasn't that long you know, when we were in the process of renegotiating our contract with Danbury Hospital, back when it first switched over to Nuvance, and we had to renegotiate the paramedic agreement. I called up the state EMS or the state OEMS commission, Office of Emergency Management, and asked for call records so we could just try to guess how much revenue was flowing through there. And they told me they were not allowed to give it to me. So we're handling taxpayer dollars that are funded by taxpayers through the police paramedic program. And at that time, I was literally told, you don't have a right to see that data.
Well, that
So-
tells me, that tells me, and maybe to Marty too, that maybe we should put some teeth into the ordinance for EMS then.
Right. So also the local EMS plan, I mean, I'd have to look at it again, but that's basically a contract between the town of Bethel and the two fire companies that provide EMS. So if there's ever any issue where they're not complying with that contract, then the board of selectmen.
Let me just throw this back to you, Tom, and maybe Scott and Kenny. Would you have any problems with us if we say we want some teeth behind this whole thing so that we're totally transparent with the EMS commission?
What do you, I don't know what you mean by that. What do you?
I mean, we're asking for this information. We can't get it.
But I think it's already in the ordinances. I think you gotta ask Scott that question. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but it's up to Scott.
Yeah, I mean, if it's already in the
John,
ordinance,
I'm sorry, I forgot you. John's here too.
Go ahead, Scott. You
if
broke up a
it's
little
already
bit.
in the ordinance, you know, then they have no choice but to do it. If it's already written down.
John Baker?
Yes, no, I have no problem giving you that information. I have no reason to
Okay.
call volume.
Okay. All right, then I suggest we keep it in the,
Sound like a problem.
what's that?
It doesn't sound like a problem, everybody's saying.
All right.
Why
Are
don't
you
you ask
okay?
for it tomorrow?
Marty's shaking his head. Come on, Marty, come back to us.
It has been a problem. I mean, you know, we're all sitting here, we know it's been a problem. I mean, how many times you gotta ask? I mean, you know, it's ridiculous. You know, so, you know, hey, I'm all for it. If EMS gets the information, that's fine with me.
Okay, fine.
All right.
As long as we get the information.
Let's give it a try. Matt, I'm gonna make this suggestion. Then since
Okay.
it's the end of the year, send something from the Board of Selectmen saying we'd like to see the results.
I'm just going to say that, Paul. Matt, send the EMS a letter requesting that information, and let's see where it goes. Let's start it
Okay.
right now.
All right. That sounds good.
All right, we solved it.
All right. Well, that covers everything that I had in this thing. Richard, Paul, do you have anything else in addition to the original document or any changes to it?
No. One thing I was very happy to see that, you know, that this commission will be responsible for doing this capital budget and maintaining records. To me, that's the most important thing. You know, just like, you know, your own automobile, you got a little file there that you say, when's the last time I had the wheels balanced or wheel alignment? You know, this is something I think that it's for the benefit of both fire departments and the town too.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we have discussed a lot on this. We've kind of agreed by consensus to make some changes. I will distill this into a final document for you guys to review and vote on before we send it to Marty to start drafting. Then, of course, we have to have some more public hearings, some formal input on that. So if that is acceptable to you, then I'll have this ready for December 14th. That sound
It's
good?
good. Fine.
Good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes our agenda in that case. And Scott, Kenny, John, Tom, thank you very much for joining. I know this stuff is not easy for you. Change is hard. And I do want you guys to understand that, you know, there have been some issues in the past. We all know what they are. They don't need to be reiterated. This is not an indictment of anybody. This is just trying to bring some transparency and some basically put us in a position where you guys can even get some help in managing some of these financial things, and that taxpayers are assured that their tax dollars are being spent wisely. So I appreciate everything you guys do. And I want to thank you for that, and we will work together as best as we possibly can. So thank you very much for joining tonight. Thank you for your input.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. This
Tony,
was a good meeting.
Yeah, Tony,
Yeah.
you too. I know you're a former chief. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
move.
All right, motion by Rich, second by Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Thank you again, everybody. Have a great night.
Good. Be safe.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.